everyone. So to start off my speech, I just wanted to say, first of all, good morning, and I would like to start out by thanking Peace of Mind for putting together this amazing program and the opportunity for our voices to be heard, and to thank you, the audience, to be here today. So, my name is Ashley Day, and I am a senior at Sisler High School, and I suffer from a mental illness, or rather live with. I have been diagnosed with social and generalized anxiety, OCD, as well as depression. I have been living with these things for a few years now, but I can honestly say I'm at the best I have ever been mentally. But it has taken me lots to get to this point. My path to healing hasn't been very linear, but I made it. Living with a mental illness has honestly taught me a lot about myself and about life in general. It has shown me what it feels like to be the happiest person alive, but also the saddest, and I'm grateful to know both. I know what it feels like to not want to get out of bed in the morning or participate in life. But I also know what it feels like to want to dance like nobody's watching or laugh until your stomach hurts. Living with a mental illness has definitely challenged me, has made me miss lots of school, and I became very antisocial. When I was in grade 10, I found out that I had anxiety. It started one day when I started to have chest pains. They started off minor one morning, but by that same night, it felt like I was having a heart attack. I was very confused and worried as to why I was having these pains. I've never experienced pain like that before, and I was afraid I was going to die, honestly. But of course, that was my anxiety taking over. They hurt so much that my parents took me to a walk-in clinic that evening to get it checked out. It was about an hour-long wait until I saw a doctor who told me that I was perfectly fine and to go home. I went home still in pain that night. When I got home, I managed to fall asleep for around 2 hours, and then I woke up around 1 a.m. that night still in pain. I woke up my parents to tell them that it was worsening, and my dad took me to the child emergency. After a chest x-ray and a few hours later, I was told by a doctor that, in fact, I was fine physically and that the pain had been actually caused from stress and anxiety. I was a little shocked and confused at this point in my life. I didn't really think I struggled with anxiety, or more rather, I convinced myself that I didn't. I always thought to myself that I think I might have it, but I would just tell myself I was exaggerating or making it up. But there's this quote by one of my favorite authors, J.K. Rowling, and she wrote in her last Harry Potter book, and it goes, "Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry, but why should that mean it is not real?" This quote made me realize that what I'm thinking and feeling is valid, and just because no one else may believe it, that it's happening in my head doesn't make it not real. I had to speak to many people before I got the treatment I needed, which was about a year later after my first trip to the hospital. Many people told me that, including my friends and family, that I wasn't really depressed and that all teenagers felt the same way and that everyone is going through the same thing, which is not true. After this event to the hospital, I felt very anxious everywhere I went. I started to have panic attacks at school and other crowded places with lots of people. I also started self-harming again this year quite a bit. Self-harm has actually been something I've struggled with for a few years now. But at this point, I started to feel like it was getting out of hand. So I went to a guidance counselor at school, and he set me up with the school social worker right away. She was super nice, and I still talk to her to this day. She helped me open up a lot about my anxiety and depression, and I was able to talk to her about it. She was the one who actually told me about a program at the Health Sciences Center called Centralized Intake, which helps children and adolescents who suffer from a mental illness. She told me to get a referral from my family doctor to get into this program. So we made an appointment with my family doctor, and I explained to him my feelings of sadness, anxiety, as well as my self-harm. He didn't seem to take me seriously and just asked if I was suicidal, which I replied with no, because I wasn't. I didn't want to die, I just didn't want to feel the way I did anymore. My doctor told my parents that I was fine because I wasn't suicidal, and they ignored the fact that I was suffering. He also said that centralized intake doesn't exist, and that he never heard of it, which is untrue. He prevented me from getting the program I needed sooner. My parents told the social worker at school about what my doctor had said, so she decided to make the referral for me. This referral wasn't made until the beginning of my grade 11 year, and my first appointment wasn't until February of that school year. And in this period of months, I became very depressed suddenly. My depression became the worst it had ever been. I couldn't fall asleep at night or wake up in the mornings. I was exhausted all the time, and I felt like a zombie. I would never eat because I didn't have the appetite or energy, and I was dizzy and weak a lot. I spent most of my days lying in bed. I started to self-harm again this year, and one night it went too far. I was really upset, and I wasn't thinking straight, and I took the blade and I went down my arm, and the cuts were too deep. I had to get stitches. This was really a turning point in my life. I realized that what I was doing was very unhealthy for me, and this trip to the hospital was one of the scariest things I've experienced, and I'm grateful that it didn't end fatally. It changed a lot in my life. I didn't wear shorts the rest of that school year and still rarely do. I was excused from all my exams that semester so I could have time to go home and rest mentally and physically. Even after 2 trips to the hospital, I would try to convince myself that I was fine. A few weeks later, I had my first appointment at centralized intake with my new therapist. After a few sessions, he told me I definitely do suffer from anxiety and depression, and he also helped me a lot in my healing process. He made me realize that it is okay to admit that I'm struggling. He asked me after a few sessions if I wanted to try medication to help cope with my depression, anxiety, and as well as compulsions, and I agreed. I was willing to try, and so I was first put on an antidepressant called Celexa, but that didn't work out, so now it was changed to Zoloft, which I continue to take on a daily basis. I also still attend centralized intake once every 2 weeks to meet with my therapist. I try to focus on little things in life that make me happy, like being with the people I care about, or even doing something as simple as reading a book. I no longer self-harm since my last trip to the hospital. I still have anxiety on a daily basis, but I'm not as sad, and for me, that's an improvement. I'm still on my way to getting better, and the path to getting there is only beginning for me. I'm excited to see what life has to offer and what I can make out of it. And now I just want to take a moment to tell those who are suffering in silence that you're not alone. You may feel how I used to, doubtful, hopeless, and maybe even scared of getting better, but there are people who know how you're feeling and can relate. The journey to getting the help you need doesn't happen overnight, and I know it can be frustrating when no one takes what you're feeling seriously. If the first person you try to talk to doesn't listen, then keep going until someone does. It took me over a year to finally get the help that I needed. And also, hang in there. Getting better may seem impossible, but it isn't. I am living proof of this. What helped me deal with my mental illness was talking about it to someone. Whether it be a friend, family member, school counselor, therapist, I always felt better after talking about my problems. My friends and family and therapists have been a big influence in my path to getting better. Having a support system to fall back on during my darkest days has definitely helped me a lot. They cheer me up on days where I don't feel like smiling, and for that I am grateful. Medication has helped me a lot as well, mood and energy-wise. I'm able to enjoy small things in life again instead of always being stuck in my negative thoughts. And also, if it wasn't for events like Yamis, I as well as others, wouldn't get the chance to come up here today and share our stories. The only way we can end the stigma around mental illness is to talk about it. But there also has to be people out there that are willing to listen and support those who are willing to talk. If you know of someone who is suffering, don't be afraid to ask them how they're doing or if they're okay. We don't want people to feel like they're walking on eggshells around us or to think that we're too fragile. We're just people and want it to be treated like so. Never be afraid to help, and don't be afraid to ask for help either. The only way that things will get better is if we talk about it and end this stigma. Thank you for listening.